are now tuned in to the 411 for your fantasy football with your host, Autumn Wind Williams.
What's going on, everybody? It's the 411 for your fantasy football, and my name is Autumn Wind Williams. We're now at week 5. Can you believe those weeks just flew by so fast for the 2018 football season? Pretty soon we'll be in the playoffs. Man, it happened so fast. And I'm glad the lineups that we're creating are actually winning money this year. That's what I was figuring out on the off season. I was like, maybe if I start making these videos about the guys I'm actually thinking about playing, and then Saturday night I take those guys out because I'm hearing everybody else's rumors, who is sitting or is a bad play. So what I end up doing is taking consideration, making these videos to bring me back to what I was originally thinking before I took all my guys out of my lineups, and help me kind of like meditate on if I should focus on the guys that I originally thought, because sometimes your gut feeling tells you to do something. You actually should stick to your guns and do it. So that's one of the reasons why I make these videos, and I'm glad I did, because it actually helped me get more of a profitable season, and hopefully it has for you. And another thing that I'm focusing on is playing those high implied totals, doing more game stacks, focus on playing catching running backs with good quarterbacks. Try to get catching running backs also with good defense. A running back where they would get a lot of handoffs on the second half when they have a strong defense to back them up, because the running back slows down the game flow and give the defense a rest. So when they come out, they're refreshed and they're ready to go. And when it's a lot of money, getting sacks on the quarterbacks and so on. Even though this year defense has been tough because what the refs been doing with all these plays. Guys are afraid to tackle the quarterback unless you're Khalil Mack. But moving on, it's week 5. I'm going to let you know 3 quarterbacks I have, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, and of course 3 defense. And I might this week throw in some sleepers. So moving on, like I said, quarterback, first one I have, high implied total. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan's 8,300 on Fanduel, 6,600 on Draftkings, and he's averaged 396.5 passing yards, 4 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. Now facing the Steelers, who's ranked 29 in passing allowed per game and 19th in pass DVOA. It's a lot of offensive weapons on both sides of the field, and both defenses aren't that great. Roethlisberger, he might do great, but I feel like Matt Ryan, if the Falcons are behind, Ryan's going to be throwing a lot of accurate balls. You got Ridley, you got Julio Jones, Austin Hooper can catch. You got 2 running backs, Tevin Coleman, and now Devonta Freeman is back. They can catch the ball as well. So that's what I'm looking at as far as with the Steelers and the Falcons when it comes to quarterback. Matt Ryan will definitely be in my lineups. Moving on to my next quarterback, I have Jared Goff of the LA Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks. He's only 8,000 on FanDuel and 6,500 on DraftKings. He's coming off a great game of 465 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns, and the Seahawks are not that great against passing offenses. A lot of people think Seahawks are what they used to be when it was a Richard Sherman and the whole squad, the Legion of Boom, and now they're Legion of Doomed. And I feel like Jared Goff is going to be a low-owned quarterback And because a lot of people think that the Seahawks are what they used to be, and I feel like he can go out there and get us 400 plus yards, maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns, and Todd Gurley, he can catch some touchdowns too. He not only rushing, man. So that's going to be a great play, I feel, for you guys to take advantage of versus the Seattle Seahawks. My next quarterback is from the Minnesota Vikings. I'm talking about Kirk Cousins versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles defense is not that great right now, and I feel like Kirk Cousins can go out there and take advantage of that. He got the offensive weapons: Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. I don't know if Dalvin Cook is going to be better this week. Latavius Murray has not been having a season that he needs to have, but Eagles, it might be a shoot-off if Carson Wentz goes out there and does what he can do as he proved last year, which led them, well, he didn't lead them to be Super Bowl champs, but all the offensive guys that he have. We also been seeing Nelson Aguilar step up this year. But I'm looking at guys like Zach Ertz. He got Alshon Jeffries back last week, who actually made a touchdown. And, that's one that I messed up on. I kept on looking at, man, I should play Alshon. He's going to be low on. He just came back. I know he's ready to go out there and get a touchdown. And what I do, fade him. I think I played him in one lineup, and that was a free Fanduel or Draftkings lineup. So I feel like I was about to bang my head against the wall over it. It was a cheap play and made that touchdown. And I was like, no, man. It probably would have helped me win another cash lineup. But, yeah, I feel like Kirk Cousins can go out there and at least put up 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns, over 325 yards. He can run the ball. And I feel like that would be a wise decision. Another lower-owned quarterback for you guys to consider on this 12-game slate. Moving on to running back. I feel like this is going to be a shootout. It's a rival game. San Diego Chargers versus the Oakland Raiders. Melvin Gordon, running back, 8,300 on Fanduel, 6,500 on Draftkings. He can not only run the ball, he can catch the ball. And Raiders defense that ranks 30th in rushing, allowed per game, 28th in run DVOA. Gordon, we know he can get goal line touchdowns. He can catch the ball, run them in. If Eckler's not taking the ball so much, that's my concern. My 2 concerns playing Melvin Gordon has nothing to do with the Raiders defense. It has to do with Austin Eckler and how loud that crowd gets, because it's going to be a lot of Oakland Raider fans traveling. Plus, you got a lot of LA Raider fans that's there that's going to be in those stands. Because if you guys saw last year, they packed that soccer field that the Chargers play in, and it's a very small soccer field. If it's too loud for Phillip Rivers to hear, Chargers might not get nowhere in this game. I remember even the year before when they were in San Diego. Now they're playing in Carson, California, near LA. But when they were in San Diego at the Qualcomm Stadium, it was so many Oakland Raider and LA Raider fans there, where, when I used to go to the games and be part of the Black Hole, we used to call San Diego South Oakland. Even though it's not a South Oakland in the Bay Area, when we went on the road and faced the Chargers in San Diego, we named it South Oakland. That's how many Raider fans are there. But it was so many Raider fans there. I didn't attend that year. I'm looking at on TV. It's so loud. And it was a close game. The Chargers almost won. But I can see Phillip Rivers, making false starts. And it got so loud, they zoomed the camera on him. He said, I'm supposed to say that word on YouTube, so read my lips. When I saw that and heard how loud the crowd was, I just fell down busting out laughing. I was like, this is unbelievable. So those are my concerns with playing the Chargers, period, is how loud Oakland Raider fans and LA Raider fans and whoever else is going to just take over, and Chargers are going to feel uncomfortable, and that's when they start making mistakes, when they know they don't have their own fan base behind them. And they're another team that betrayed their fan base too, moving down the street to Los Angeles, well, Carson from Las Vegas. So it might be all bad for them faces the Oakland Raiders, especially when the Raiders are supposedly trying to move to San Diego until the Las Vegas stadium is built. So they might be trying to create a ruckus out there and convert a lot of those fans into Raider fans to support them in San Diego. Moving on. Also from this game, I'm considering playing Marshawn Lynch on the other side of the field. He's only 5,500 on Draftkings and 6,500 on Fanduel. And last week, I saw Marshawn Lynch play like he used to play, and it seemed like this year they're trying to use him the way that he should have been used last year. I mean, yeah, they have the other running backs that they try to get in and do the little committee thing, but they've been more committed to letting Marshawn Lynch run. You know, he's extremely talented, and now facing the Chargers defense is good, but when it comes to rushing yards, they're tied at 17, you know, and 22 in the run DVOA. Marshawn Lynch might go out there and put up 100 yards, especially if that crowd, like I said, is involved in that game, because the Chargers defense would then get tired if the Raiders are running up the score. Lynch is getting a lot of runs, and everybody get excited when Lynch is going wild. And yeah, play Marshawn Lynch. I guarantee you'll be happy if it works out that way. Next running back I have is David Johnson of San Francisco 49ers versus the Arizona Cardinals. He's 7,600 on FanDuel and 6,300 on DraftKings. Get him while you can now. I think the Arizona Cardinals finally figured out they need to go back to the way that they were doing things that were working for David Johnson. I mean, they didn't do as much as they should have did, like far as, like, say 2 years ago when they was playing David Johnson, how explosive he was. Last year, unfortunately, he was out with the injury to the wrist. This year, they haven't been really giving him opportunity, but last week he had 26 opportunities, and that's the highest total of this season. You know, especially when they got the rookie quarterback out there. He's needed. He's needed a lot more for support for a rookie quarterback, Josh Rosen. And it looking like he's trying to set a spark with him and David Johnson in the backfield. And, you know, playing against the 49ers defense, I'm not afraid of that. You know, they got broken pieces on both sides, defense and offense, especially on offense. If they're not producing on offense, it's going to tire down the defense. They're going to go out there, get lazy, can't get sacks. Or if they try to do any blitz, David Johnson is going to be there to catch them dump offs. And I feel like David Johnson can go out there and get us 2 touchdowns this week. And those are the type of players we need when you got scores, you know, in fantasy. You play on a 12 game or 13 game slate like last week. You get all these guys getting multiple touchdowns. It's hard to get in the green lines. So you got to try to find the most affordable players that can get you in the green lines with multiple touchdowns as much as possible. And David Johnson is one of those guys with a high upside. So I'm definitely going to have him in a lot of my lineups. Moving on back to the Steelers and Falcons game. I got Julio Jones. He's 8,800 on Fanduel, 8,500 on Draftkings. Steelers is ranked 29th in passing yards allowed. I believe I mentioned that already. And Julio Jones, he gets a lot of this volume. He has 46 targets. He's 7th in targets. So, if I say play Matt Ryan, you better pair him up with Julio Jones. I know I'm speaking of some of those guys that might be at high price, but the reason why they're high price is because it's a high implied total, and it's sleepers out there that you can go after that can help you get these expensive guys. Because the next guy I'm mentioning too is also in the game, and he's very expensive. I'm talking about Antonio Brown. Now he is 2nd in targets with 53. Roethlisberger focused on him a lot, especially without no Le'Veon Bell. I mean, James Conner is great, but is he Le'Veon Bell? Nah, bruh, nah. So he's going to focus more on an Antonio Brown. I mean, you can go with Juju Smith-Schuster too. That would be a great pick, but I feel more comfortable going with Antonio Brown, especially with 53 targets. He's considered one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and we know that he can blow up. I remember he got on the Raiders, I believe, like 4 or 5 touchdowns one year. I was a pissed off dude. That's before I was playing fantasy football. I just wanted my team to win, and he was destroying our opportunities. At that moment, I hated Antonio Brown. But yeah, this game, with the 57-point over and under, you have to make consideration of these guys being in your lineups. Next one, I got a cheap one for you. Doug Baldwin, Seattle Seahawks versus the LA Rams. He's 6,700 on FanDuel and 5,000 on DraftKings. So at least consider playing him on DraftKings. And the reason why I picked Doug Baldwin, he could play in the slot, not have to worry too much about the secondary from the Rams. Get a lot of short passes, maybe a touchdown. I'm hoping if he can go 5 for 8 and a touchdown, I'm happy with that at 5,000 on DraftKings, because I know, Seahawks is going to have trouble against the Rams defense, but I feel like he can go out there and at least get some type of decent production that would save us at salary, but also get us a touchdown and a few passes. So why not? Moving on to tight end, I have his former teammate, Jimmy Graham. We got the Green Bay Packers versus the Detroit Lions. Jimmy Graham is 6,100 on FanDuel and 4,700 on DraftKings. Graham, he's seen at least 6 targets the past 3 weeks. And with Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison banged up, we don't know if they're going to play this week. No, I'm recording this video on Thursday night, so, reports come out Friday afternoon, who's playing, who's not a lot of times. Sometimes they wait Saturday and Sunday and let us know. But I feel like if one of those guys, even if one of those guys are sitting, he can get a lot of their production passed on to his way. And, it's a 51-point over and under versus the Lions. A lot of folks are considering this to be the shootout of the week, which is possible. The Packers defense, they're not that great, even though they got like 23 points on the Buffalo Bills last week. We're talking about the Buffalo Bills, right? Lions, they're not that great either. They only got 3 fantasy points last week, man. I remember playing that lineup. They got me 3 fantasy points, and I was really upset. I was jarred. As one of my old school homies used to say, I was jarred. But yeah, 6,100 on FanDuel, 4,700 on DraftKings. I feel like that's a salary saver right there, especially on DraftKings, that I'm going to take advantage of when I'm playing an Antonio Brown or or Julio Jones in one of my lineups. Next guy I have is with the Steelers and Falcons game again, 4,600 on Fanduel, 3,700 on Draftkings. He's a salary saver on both sides, you see. Is Vance McDonald. Very cheap play. I mean, if you want to avoid all the high-priced guys and still be involved in that game, this is a perfect opportunity because Vance McDonald, he's been getting a lot of targets. And, his return, week 3, he stiffed arm the guy and ran, he got four of his 5 targets for 112 yards with a touchdown. That stiff arm, man. Injured him. Chris Conti? Injured him, put him on injury reserve just from a stiff arm. That's powerful. But yeah, McDonald's seen 10 targets. Jesse James only seen 2 targets past 2 weeks. And now he gets to play against the Atlanta Falcons. He can go out there and do some damage. All right. My very last tight end I have, going back to the San Diego Chargers versus the Oakland Raiders. I'm going to go old school with Antonio Brown from the San Diego Chargers. He's 4,800 on FanDuel and only 2,800 on DraftKings. The reason why I'm picking Antonio Gates, he's one of Phillip Rivers' favorite targets. They begged him to come out of retirement because they didn't hardly have anybody to throw to at tight end. And Antonio Gates got strong history against the Oakland Raiders. He always want to go out there and play his all, especially when he plays the Oakland Raiders, the Denver Broncos, and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a rival game, a serious rival game. And I feel like he can go out there and at least catch another touchdown. He caught one last week. Antonio Gates has a good fantasy DFS history when it comes to tight ends. He's very trustworthy. So I'm definitely going to be considering putting him in my lineups when I stack that game. Now, moving on to defense. We have the Tennessee Titans versus the Buffalo Bills. And you guys know all season long until some improvement happens on the Buffalo Bills, especially when it comes to LaShawn McCoy and their quarterback not doing that great this season, I'm going to play who's going against them, and that's the Tennessee Titans. They're only 3,900 on FanDuel and 4,000 on DraftKings. I'm expecting at least 10 to 15 fantasy points from the Tennessee Titans. They're not that bad on defense. Horrible on offense, but great on defense. Next one I got is the Carolina Panthers is a good one too if you guys want to consider playing them against I believe they're going against the New York Giants. Yeah. They got awesome offensive pieces but don't know how to use them. But my next defense I have is the Arizona Cardinals versus the San Francisco 49ers. I already told you how bad the 49ers offense pieces are. With Beathard, Beathard, whatever that quarterback's name is. Breda's injured. So many injuries. So many injuries, man. I'm definitely going to pick with them. I'm going to pick bones with them a lot by picking the Arizona Cardinals defense. 4,300 on FanDuel and 2,900 on DraftKings. Very last defense I have is the LA Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks. 4,700 on FanDuel, 3,800 on DraftKings. You guys already know why I'm picking the LA Rams defense. They're awesome on the defensive line and secondary. Gosh, that's smothering for Russell Wilson. He can run the ball, but they don't want him to run the ball. They rather have Tom, Dick, and Harry run the ball. They don't know who's going to run the ball. First is Chris Carson. Now it's Mike Davis. They don't want Rashad Penny. They had Christian Michael last year or the year before. They had Thomas Ross the year before that, or was it the same year? Ever since Marshawn Lynch left, they've been screwed. I mean, if Earl Thomas never got injured, I think Pittsburgh Steelers and Seattle Seahawks could have worked out a great deal. Steelers wanted a star and a second rounder, and Earl Thomas didn't want to be with Seattle. Le'Veon Bell acts like he don't want to be with the Steelers because he's not getting the pay he feel like he deserve. Le'Veon Bell to the Seahawks, ooh, that would have been awesome. Earl Thomas to the Pittsburgh Steelers, ooh, that would have been awesome. Why didn't they work that out? Everybody wins. You win, I win, Seahawks win, Steelers win. We all win money and get money. Man, I wish that worked out. But anyway, it didn't. We moving on. Let me go back from top to bottom who all I have. If you're late on the video or you don't want to rewind, Matt Ryan at quarterback along with Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins. Running back, Melvin Gordon, Marshawn Lynch, David Johnson. Wide receiver, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Doug Baldwin. At tight end, Jimmy Graham, Vance McDonald, Antonio Gates. Defense, Titans, Cardinals, Rams. Now, I'm going to check out at least 3 sleepers for you guys, because I know I gave some high price. I don't want to feel like I'm just naming superstars for y'all. I want to at least give you some sleepers that I'm considering. Let me try it running back right now. See what we have. All right. Okay. All right. You might want to consider Austin Eckler from San Diego Chargers. Kerryon Johnson is not recommended because Detroit Lions assume that he's getting enough carries, but I like how that guy look. He is explosive. If they do put him out there, he can get you a touchdown. If they let him get a lot of play action, he can get at least 100 yards minimum if they give him maximum play exposure. And TJ Yeldon. Well, TJ Yeldon might be chalk because everybody know that Leonard Fournette's not playing. I'm not really fond of Yeldon. I feel like he'll always go out there and give his bare minimum. But last week, he did get a touchdown and get 24 fantasy points. He got 3 targets, caught all 3 targets for 48 yards. And rushing, he got 52 yards. So, yeah, you guys might want to play him. All right, at wide receiver, let's see. Okay, wide receiver. You might want to consider Ryan Switzer in that Atlanta-Pittsburgh game. He got 10.3 fantasy points last week. You know, so if they're not giving the ball a lot to James Conner, they're using this guy at rushing. We'll try to. He got 1 yard. But, you know, they might try to do something at rushing with Ryan Switzer. He was with the Dallas Cowboys last year. Spent a little bit of time with the Raiders this past year. He got 7 for 7 targets receiving, 32 targets total. And let's see, get you a couple more receivers. Oh, this guy right here, Audric Robinson. He's only 3,300 on Draftkings, and last week he got a touchdown. He actually got 2 touchdowns last week. He got, let's see. He got 2 touchdowns last week, receiving, 2 targets, 2 touchdowns, and got 17.3 fantasy points. And I had no idea who this guy was and why was he on my TV screen. I wish I played him. And another wide receiver to consider, if Allison and Cobb might sit, M. Valdez-Scantling from Green Bay Packers. He's 3,300 on Draftkings. And let me see, quarterback. Let's go to quarterback. Everybody know Lamar Jackson. If Flacco don't do great against the Browns, they're gonna bring in Lamar Jackson. So definitely, if he does, you might want to just stash a lineup with Lamar Jackson in there, just to be really, really, really contrarian, assuming that he get the ball and they sit Flacco for the rest of the game because he sucked. Josh Rosen, he might be a good sleeper. Only 4,700 against the San Francisco 49ers. And Derek Carr, he might be a good sleeper. Versus the Los Angeles Chargers, he's only 5,200. Now, at tight end, let's see who we have. All right, let's see. Moving on up. Nothing down there. Hewerman from the Denver Broncos. This past Monday night, he got 9.7 fantasy points. He got 7 targets for 57 yards. You know, when they had Jake Butt injured with the knee, he came in there, stepped his game up, man, and pretty much played a decent game. Another two I'm hearing a lot of talk about due to Tyler Eifert's out is Tyler Kroft, who usually came in when Eifert did come in last year when Tyler Eifert was out. But they all, Cincinnati Bengals is also looking at CJ Uzuma, who he had more of a productive season than Tyler Kroft when he got the opportunity this year. And Ricky Seals-Jones from Arizona Cardinals against the 49ers. He's only 2,900. All 3 of those guys I just named, last name, those guys are all 2,900 on DraftKings. So those are some fellas you may consider and plan. Now that I told you everybody that I'm considering or sleepers that I'm recommending, I'm signing out. If you don't like the picks, or you do like the picks, make sure you comment below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video. Talk to you next week, and hopefully we all get in the green line and just win, baby. I'm out.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the 411 Podcast. Now get ready to make that money. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the 411 DFS.